How's it going, everyone? I'm Sean and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through one of the great enigmas of guitar building, and that is how to position the bridge, how to get it in the right place so that your guitar will intonate, pure and simple. So grab yourself a nice hot cup of tea or coffee, whatever you want, get comfortable and enjoy. For this video, I'm going to be using this, which is my build-off guitar for 2022. You can check out that whole playlist in the link in the description or in the top right-hand corner of your screen. It's kind of a cool build, so yeah, check it out. This is a bass, but the concept of what I'm going to go through is the same regardless of the instrument, really. If it's a 6-string, a 7-string, a 12-string guitar, or indeed a bass of any amount of strings. Before I get fully started on this, there are a couple of things I need from it. I need some reference lines. I need the center line and I need the scale length line. Now, the center line is a funny one. As you're building, you are going to be building to the center line. But once you have a guitar at this stage, with the neck in place, I've just done the neck pocket on this, I'm going to redraw my center line to the neck. I'm going to hope that that neck center line matches up with the body center line, but if it's not, that doesn't matter. A lot of the time when we do a neck pocket like this, hand built, your center line will stray and wander. And it's very important for alignment reasons that you do your center line relative to the neck. So to get my center line on the body that is relative to the neck, it's quite simple, really. All I really need is a meter rule, a pencil, and I like to use a protractor, but any ruler will work. Step one, I'm going to put the meter rule up against the side of the neck. And this is effectively carrying on the taper of the neck. And I'm just going to make a mark or a line. And repeat the same on the other side. So I've got two lines. I'm going to get the center point of these two lines. And luckily, that is perfectly on my join line of this build. I'm going to pop out the neck. And I've already marked where the center line is up here. So I'm going to use that. Connect the two. And that is going to be my center line. Easy as that. Next thing I want to do, I'm going to pop the neck back in. I'm going to just measure the scale length. If for whatever reason you don't know the scale length of your build, it is going to be the distance from the front edge of the nut to the 12th fret and then doubled. So I'm going to mark here at 773 millimeters. That is my scale length. Then I'm going to strike a line with the protractor 90 degrees to my center line at the scale length. And this crosshairs is essentially what we're going to use to locate the bridge. Now with our crosshairs in place, I have my bridge here, and I'm going to go over a couple of different bridges like Tune-O-Matics and Trems as well, just so this is more comprehensive, really. One thing I'm going to do off the bat, which I've already done on this one, I'm going to take the highest string, that is the thinnest string, and I'm going to adjust that saddle as far forward as I am comfortable adjusting it. So for this one, you can hopefully see the screw is flush at the very front. I could bring it back further. There is still technically that much more adjustment range, but I don't need to, so I'm not going to. We're going to take a step back real quick and just talk about why we're positioning it and what considerations we have for positioning it. And essentially, if you think you have your guitar, when you fret any string on any note, imagine what's going to happen. You fret the string and you are bending that string ever so slightly, okay? It is going to go slightly out of pitch as you bend it onto the string. Intonation is what adjusts and compensates for that bending. Now, as we all hopefully know, when you bend thicker strings, the amount of pitch change is a lot greater than if you bent a thinner string the same amount. Okay, that's to do with the weight of the string, the gauge of the string. Therefore, when I take this bridge, I'm referencing the highest string because that is the thinnest gauge. That string is going to pitch adjust the least amount when I fret. I hope that makes sense for everyone, but that is why I'm using the thinnest string saddle to locate this whole bridge. And that's going to be the same no matter what style of bridge you do, if you're doing a Trem, a Hardtail style Strat, or a Tune-O-Matic, anything really. Okay, back to it. We have our bridge. The highest string has been adjusted as far forward as I'm comfortable. And now it's simply a case, I'm going to eyeball this, which sounds ridiculous, but remember, this bridge has adjustment. I can move that saddle forwards and backwards quite a fair amount. So I'm going to eyeball it so that where the string makes contact with the bridge, which on this style of bridge is right between the two screws on this saddle, I'm going to eyeball it so that that is exactly on my scale length. You are only ever going to need to adjust back from the scale length. You will never need to adjust further forward. And that is why I've adjusted it now as far forward, and that's my reference point. The reason that it's never going to have to adjust this far of the line is simply because when you bend a string, the pitch goes up. I have never heard of a string that when bent, the pitch goes down. It physically does not happen. Therefore, you will only ever need to adjust your intonation away from the scale length. Once I have eyeballed it, it is now more or less in line with that. I say more or less, it is pretty close to exactly in line with that. All I need to do now is center the bridge and make sure that it is straight and perpendicular. So thankfully, most bridges are designed that there is something in the center of it. This bridge has a screw hole dead center. I have a Centreline, so I'm going to just adjust this and eyeball it. There we go. So now my Centreline is dead set in the middle of that screw hole. So it's centered. Next up, I need to make sure it's square. I'm going to nice and gently put my protractor up against it. And then I can see the line is there, and I'm slightly off over here, so therefore I'm not quite there. So now this bridge is on. It is centered, as I can see from that line through that screw hole. It is in the correct place laterally, as I can tell from my scale length, and it is 90 degrees to my center line. It is square. I'm now going to hold the bridge in place and make a mark on these screw holes. And those 5 screw holes, that is where my bridge is going to be mounted to. And that is pretty much it. There is not a lot that goes into positioning a bridge. A lot of people do stress out about this. I know when I started building first, bridge placement was one thing I completely stressed out about. But it is simply that simple. Just line it up on the scale line, make sure it's 90 degrees, make sure it's centered. End of story. That is your general rule of thumb with positioning any bridge. There are, of course, some exceptions, but it's a really good starting point, and it will work for quite a lot of bridges. Some bridges are a little bit more troublesome. Take, for example, a Trem Bridge here that I have. This one is quite difficult to line up simply because you've got a big block sitting here. You can't just stick it down and hope that it's going to be about right. But thankfully, this one requires some routing, which is going to make our life easier. But of course, we need to figure out where does that routing go. Once you have the routing done, you just pop it in and then you can position it just like any other bridge. But you need to figure out where to route the holes. Now, what you need to figure out, once again, let me get this to focus. We have our saddle up here. That is what we want in line with our scale length. but we are going to have a route for the block. So to figure that out, you're going to get the distance from the saddle to the front edge here, and then you can get the distance from this front edge back to this block. Okay? So let me grab a ruler and we'll actually measure it out. So this particular trem, and again, I've adjusted the high E string as far forward as I'm comfortable with, which you can hopefully see there. So I'm going to measure this from the front edge of the trem to where the string hits the saddle. I'm going to say that is about 5.5 millimeters. Okay? Then I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to measure. That is 9 millimeters on this side from the trem block to the front edge. Okay, let's draw a nice pretty picture. That is the base plate of our bridge. That is our saddle. That is our intonation point. And back here, we have our trem block. As you can see, this is all perfectly to scale. I'm going to use this red pencil to show some lines. So, this is our main reference line. Right there. What we have is we have the distance here to here, which we said was 5.5. We have the distance here to here, which we said was 9. What we want is to find the difference from our intonation point here to our trem block right here, which hopefully we can see is essentially 9 millimeters, take 5.5. That difference is of course 3.5 millimeters. If we go back to our example here, I would need to put the trem block 3.5 millimeters back from our scale length. So this line here, 3.5 millimeters back from our scale length line, is where the front of this trem block needs to be positioned, like that, for us to be able to get our saddle bang on where we want it. If you had a template for this, you would probably notice a lot of the templates you get are larger than the trem block. I always try and center the trem block in your routing template. That is going to vary and differ based on trem, based on template. So I'm going to have to leave that one for you guys to figure out. But you're going to want your trem positioned so that your high E string is in line with your scale length. Exactly the same as any other bridge. This one, unfortunately, just takes a bit of forward thinking and a little bit of routing before you can position it properly. The biggest thing is trying to figure out where does your routing go. And as I said, you want to center the block in the route. The next bridge I want to tackle is another very, very popular bridge that is a little bit different. And that is the Tune-O-Matic, the humble Tune-O-Matic. So this bridge, if you look at any Tune-O-Matic equipped guitar, you know, a lot of them from Gibson have the Tune-O-Matic, it's on at an angle. It is not on straight. And that is because the Tune-O-Matic does not have a very good range of intonation adjustment. So when we install it, when we drill the holes, we need to take this into account. And we need to, again, as I said, the thicker strings require that they be placed or intonated further away from your scale length. And that is why we see them on guitars and the bass side is further back. Positioning these is not that difficult, again, but just requires a little bit of foresight, a little bit of thought. In fact, I quite often think that it's actually easier than positioning a hardtail. The first thing I'm going to do is adjust my high E string most of the way forward. And then I'm going to measure that high E string in relation to the center of my mounting post. With the saddle all the way forward, it is about 2 millimeters forward in relation to the center of my mounting post. That is handy to know because now essentially we don't need this anymore. Now when we install it, we don't want to install it again with the saddle fully extended forward, because that gives us zero wiggle room and we don't like that. So we're going to install it so that the treble side is not back 2 millimeters, it's only going to be back 1 millimeter. That means in reality, when we have it all installed in the bridge, that high E saddle should be 1 millimeter back from the front edge of the bridge. I hope that makes sense. All that is wiggle room. Now, as for the actual installation, I want to install this Tune-O-Matic with a 3 millimeter offset. That is a number that I have found that just works. Essentially, that means not installing the Tune-O-Matic straight like this, but instead I'm going to install it 3 millimeters offset, so that the bass side is 3 millimeters further back than the treble side. To that effect, I'm going to make 2 marks right now. I'm going to make one at 1 millimeter, and I'm going to make one at 4 millimeters. That 1 millimeter was gotten again because I measured this front edge to be 2 millimeters behind there, but I don't want to have it completely slammed, so I'm just going to go for 1. And then the 4 mil is 3 mil behind that. Now, to make life easier for myself, I'm going to draw one line out here from my 1 mil mark only on the treble side. I'm going to draw another line only on the bass side for this. This helps me essentially not to get confused. Sounds really silly, but if I drew 2 full-length lines here, I could get confused and somehow manage to put the Tune-O-Matic on backwards. The next number we need is the measurement post to post on this bridge, which I have previously measured to be 74 millimeters. So I'm going to write that here, 74, half of which is 37. That means I need one post 37 millimeters along this line and one post 37 millimeters along this line. If I mark those 2 marks, drill holes there, I will then be able to mount my bridge on across that axis. It'll be correct, it'll intonate perfectly fine, and we'll all be happy. I hope this installation wasn't too confusing. I hope it makes sense. Essentially, we're just doing our 3 mil offset and we're bringing it 1 millimeter back from our scale length. If you follow that, your Tune-O-Matic will intonate and we'll all be happy. Okay, that is it for this one, guys. I hope that was helpful for you. I know it was a lot of numbers I've just thrown at you. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, head back, watch it again. Why not? If you've got any questions, do absolutely head down into the comment section. Let me know. This should work for most kinds of bridges, really. We've covered essentially the 3 main types of bridges here, but of course there is a whole range of them out there, and each one is more confusing than the next. If in doubt, you can always contact manufacturers or reach out to groups, forums, whatever, wherever you get information, and hopefully somebody will be able to help. But hopefully this video will be able to guide you in the right direction. Just remember, what we're trying to do is to get the highest string saddle on or as close to the scale length line as possible. If you follow those and your bridge has decent adjustment range, not like the Tune-O-Matic, then you should be fine. I hope you liked and enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd really appreciate a subscribe, a like on this video, or even a comment. And make sure to hit that notification bell just to be notified whenever I put up new content. Hopefully, or maybe, that will help you as well. Do check out my other videos. They might come in handy, or they might just entertain you in the case of this build, for example. And if you want to go that extra little bit and support me even more, consider checking out some of my merch or some of the things that I make and sell. There will be links down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.